Hello, East Hampton Town Board. We are live, being streamed and recorded. Phone lines are up.
Great. Thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Work Session for June 18th, 2024. Carol, if you could please read the roll call.
Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Present. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So we have 6 topics today. The first will be bids with our purchasing director, Jeannie Carrozza, and that'll be followed by a presentation from Lieutenant Chelsea Tierney and Sergeant Ken Alversa on road safety. We also have a presentation from Johnny Ryan Jr., our chief lifeguard, on pool and beach safety. We will then be hearing from Harbor Master Tim Treadwell and Chief Fire Marshal Dave Brown about beach fires and residential fire pit safety. I can see there's a theme here. We're getting into the summer season. You know, we have our eyes and ears open from our public safety individuals, agencies, and we realize that there's just some education we wanted to do as we kick off the summer season and the kids get out of school. That'll be followed by a presentation by Ola of Eastern Long Island. They're going to give us a project update, and that'll be by Executive Director Minerva Perez and her team. And then lastly, our Assistant Town Attorney Nick Corsitas will give us, we're going to revisit the amendments to Chapter 255, tree and vegetation uplighting. Easy for me to say. That'll be followed by liaison reports, and then we have a few resolutions. So we're going to start with public comment, and the first one signed up is Frank Rena. Welcome, Frank.
Good morning, Town Board. My name is Frank Farina. Am I loud enough?
That's great. Speak into the mic.
But I'm from Springs. I get it that being an elected official is very complicated. There are lots of issues out there, lots of demands, but there is no more important issue. It may be equal issues, but protecting groundwater for the public is right up there at the top. So I just want to run through some history. In 2018, the prior supervisor committed to doing groundwater testing in the largest industrial area in East Hampton. That's along Springs Fireplace Road. In about the same time, Assemblyman Thiel sponsored legislation to do the same, to do groundwater testing in sand mine areas. After that, Governor Cuomo also signed the legislation, so it is the law of the land. Now it's 2024. 6 years has lapsed since it was first put as a goal, and we have had 3 public hearings to establish groundwater testing along the industrial area, in particular, the sand mine. I know from personal conversations with some of the town board members that they are also committed to it, and it's part of their public service agenda. But 6 years is 6 years. And Madam Supervisor, you once told me that government moves slowly. This is a perfect illustration of a critical issue. We cannot work under the assumption that the groundwater is safe in the industrial area. That's a presumption that will undermine our community. If we find out later on, we should have done something earlier, and we haven't. And so I'm encouraging the town board to step it up. You have lots of things that need to be taken care of, but again, there's nothing more important than testing groundwater. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Next up, we have Ben Feinstone. Welcome, Ben.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I know that you have heard from two of my neighbors in the weeks prior with respect to the road condition at Crooked Highway, which is at the top of Northwest Woods, right below Swamp Road. And I don't want to spend time in repeating what they already said to the council, because I know they reported back to me and to our neighbors that they felt very much listened to, for which we were all appreciative. I just want to highlight, maybe unnecessarily so, 2 points of what we're not. And because unlike the speaker before me, the issue that we're talking about it's not groundwater, it doesn't affect everybody. It affects a small subset of the community. And so given that we are forced to acknowledge that it only affects us, I just want the board to understand what we're not pushing for. And one, this is not a cosmetic issue. We're not asking that our road be taken into the system because we don't like the way it looks. It's not a financial issue. We're not asking that our road be taken into the system because some of us want to sell our house and we're trying to increase the value of our real property. As far as I know, all 7 of us that have gotten together and convinced the trustees to release the road, we're all planning on staying there for as far out into the timeline as any of us can see. So it's really just one of utility and function. It's very difficult I can comfortably say without exaggeration, it's very difficult for any of us to make it to Bullpath, or just when we're going out to get our groceries, or to return from Bullpath because of the number of potholes on the road. And so I just wanted the council to understand that as much as we can say it's not our personal interest that we're trying to further here, it's not. It's just utility. It's just to make our access to our houses work. The other thing, and I think this was covered, we believe, as we understand the way the law would work, is that we would pay for this ourselves through our future tax payments. All of us understand that and are happy to do it, because for the same theme that I've been hitting on, this is just about the 7 of our lives. It's not about the greater community. And then finally, I would ask, because we've been frustrated just in the amount of time that has passed, not since that we've presented to this council, but just overall. So we're sort of all forced to acknowledge that maybe this is never going to happen. And if it is never going to happen, I just wanted to float the idea that maybe this board can give us some kind of immunity. This road is really stuck in purgatory. We've got the trustees on one side and the town on the other. It's neither fish nor fowl, and it's starting to deteriorate. And we could fix it ourselves, but we would be overreaching into someone's jurisdiction there. So if we aren't going to get it, if we're not going to be fish nor fowl, we hope to be treated with some sort of acknowledgement of our problem and some sort of indication that we can go ahead and get that thing paved so that our houses can be functional. Unless there are any questions, thank you for the opportunity to be heard, especially since you've heard from 2 of my neighbors the last 2 weeks.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Len Green. Welcome, Len.
Oh, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. All right. When I was a child, every autumn we raked our leaves into long piles along the roadside in front of our house and burned them. The first car I drove used leaded gasoline. Well into my adulthood, people freely smoked in public places like this during public meetings. We don't tolerate any of that today. So why do we tolerate gas leaf blowers? Their negative health impacts are well documented. They emit volatile chemical compounds and stir up clouds of particulate matter. I won't run through the lengthy list of cardiovascular and respiratory illnesses they cause. We should know these by now. If you have any doubts, I can supply the documentation. I should add that these health impacts are particularly bad for children, as well as the adult workers who use them day after day, all day. We are in another year of record heat. We have declared a climate emergency. So why do we permit these obsolete, inefficient, deafening machines to contribute their share of climate disastrous gases into the atmosphere. All right, little transition here. Likewise, we understand we are in a biodiversity emergency. Birds and insects are suffering species collapse. We understand the causes, and right up there in the list is nighttime lighting. Again, I shouldn't have to list the ecological and economic benefits insects supply, nor is there any exaggeration in saying we can't live without these benefits. So why do we allow frivolous night lighting that has been documented as a significant and contributing cause for the decline of nocturnal insects? Why do we allow it at all when we know the consequences? Yes, there are ameliorating fixes, using warmer temperature lighting and so on. But again, why light up our bushes and trees to begin with? This is animal habitat, not an amusement park, and not the Champs-Élysées. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Len. Is there anyone else here that would like to address Gloria? Good morning, Gloria.
Good morning, everyone. Gloria Frazee, and thank you, Len, for your statement. I will, what if I said I had a magic pill? It would help general health, your circadian rhythm, you'd sleep better, you'd be less tired, your brain would be cognitively sharper, and your memory would improve. I like that. Lowers blood pressure. I did take my blood pressure medication this morning. Diabetes, heart disease, depression, aggressive behavior, obesity, cancer, including lymphoma. What if that same magic pill helped with depression, your well-being, your mood? What if it decreased suicidal behavior too?
Gloria, if you could approach,
What
yeah,
if
into
it
the mic.
decreased suicidal behavior too? How amazing and magical would this pill be? It's a miracle. It's as easy as decreasing, turning off your night lights. This is the impact that we have, or these are the effects that we would have if we had less lighting at night. We all need lighting at night where we don't have fabulous night vision. But when you have a really bright light, what if I were to shine a flashlight into your eyes? What would you see? You'd be blinded. Everything would be difficult to see. If we just turn the light down, shield it so it goes down, it doesn't glare into our eyes when we're driving down the road from those lovely little carriage lights that glare directly into your eyes on people's gates. What if we just lit the areas where people were, where they walked, our own front porch, our own walkway up to our front porch, so it doesn't trespass into someone else's bedroom, which happens to me from lights across the street? What if we just turned the Kelvin down so we had more amber-colored lights as opposed to the super bright blue lights? And I know we're all guilty, or I am at least, of using this too late at night with its blue light. But how can we, as a community, take care of our community, take care of our health, take care of our physical health, our mental health, our quality of life? This also affects children and their development. They're not sleeping as well with these bright lights everywhere. And then what about the loss of the night sky? I know we've all loved watching the stars, seeing them at night, looking at our little place in something much larger. How can we participate in that in our own homes, on our front porches, in our yards? I'm here to support your hard work and all the work on Amendment Chapter 255, dealing with tree and vegetation lighting. And I'd like to see that extended to home lighting too. So it benefits all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Is there anyone else here that would like to address the board? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, we have one caller on the line. I am unmuting right now.
Thank you.
Hello, caller, ending 8764. You're on the air.
Thank you. Good morning. This is David Buddha. I noticed two resolutions on today's agenda. Number 799, sponsored by Councilmember Ian Calder Piedmont, and number 803, sponsored by the supervisor, both dealing with unrelated issues that involve title search fees. And I'd like to just discuss this briefly and ask for a clarification with respect to resolution number 799. As you know, in resolution 803, you had been hoping that the town would be able to obtain easements from, I think it's 19 properties on Soundview Avenue in Montauk, so as to extend the FIMP project. That didn't happen. The searches were done, and now you have to pay the bill for the searches. And if this total bill of $6,650 for 19 searches, that would come out to $350 a piece for the search without title insurance, which would have been an option in the event you were to actually acquire the easements. And $350 per title search is in the ballpark of what I remember and what I would expect. However, with respect to the resolution 799, it's very unclear and ambiguous as to what exactly is happening. I don't really remember there having been a formal request for proposals concerning title search services, but if there was, and if this was the selected vendor, the resolution states that it's primarily, although not exclusively, for purposes of the Office of Housing and Community Development, which would get involved in title searches when you seek to recapture properties from that are being sold by people who are participating in the single-family housing, affordable housing programs that we've undertaken over many decades. But the cost that's cited here, and it's not clear if this is per search or total, is $1,500, and it's not clear whether this title examination searches as requested by the town at an amount not to exceed $1,500 is to be with title insurance or without title insurance. You obtain a title search from a searching company, a title agency, and then the policy, if it's to be implemented and requested, would be issued by a title insurance carrier. So I think that Resolution 799 needs to be clarified, and so that we understand what this cost is, especially because the resolution states that the Housing and Community Development Department requests title searches on a frequent basis. Thank you very much.
David. Jason, is there anyone else on the line?
There is no one else on the line.
Okay, great. So we will now move over to topics, and we have Jeannie Carrozza with bids.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeannie.
Okay, I'm starting out first with a rejection. We did an RFP for the Town of East Hampton Employees Benefit Program. We're going to put that out again because we received many questions. You want to clarify it more, so hopefully having lots of answers, so we won't have a problem next time going out. And then I have several other notices. We have supply and delivery of auto parts, food service and kitchenware items. Also, we're going to be doing a separate HVAC bid for the repair, service, and installation for the communication towers, roll-off containers for the sanitation department, and the supply and installation of commercial kitchen equipment at the Montauk Playhouse. And that's it for today.
Great, thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we're into the safety portion of our program, and we're going to bring up Lieutenant Chelsea Tierney and Sergeant Kenny Alversa to talk about road safety. Welcome. And thank you for joining us today on such short notice. We really appreciate
Sure,
it.
not a problem. Thank you.
Screen share.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Did we? I don't see the screen share on Zoom, by the way. Is that happening? Okay, now we got it. Thank you.
So over the last 10 years, we've seen a serious increase in our overall traffic volume out on the East End. We've had an influx of workforce commuters. We have an influx of people who live here year-round, tourists. And there's just been a proliferation of ride-sharing traffic as well. With this increase in volume, we've also seen an exponential increase in traffic on our secondary roads with traffic apps like Waze and Google Maps, directing many operators to alternate routes to avoid the heavy traffic that we see on Route 27. So today I wanted to address some things, rules of the road that are good for pedestrians, bicyclists, and e-bikes who are sharing those roadways with our motor vehicles. Just some things that people seem to forget in this busy season. So first I'll discuss pedestrians. The most important thing I can say about pedestrians is that we need to remember to see and be seen. Generally speaking, pedestrians have the right of way, but they only have the right of way in crosswalks and at certain designated spots where they have a yield or pedestrian signaling that they can walk. It's important to remember not to step off the curb too quickly and step in front of vehicles. You have to give cars, again, try to make eye contact with the driver, make sure that they see you, you see them before stepping off into traffic and walking across the crosswalk. If you're at a crosswalk that has a sign indicating walk or don't walk, it's important that pedestrians wait for that walk signal. It's actually a ticketable offense to walk against when it tells you not to walk. If a pedestrian is crossing at an intersection that does not have a crosswalk, vehicles actually have the right of way, so it's even more important that they make eye contact with the operators of the vehicles before crossing the street. When walking along a highway, it's always best to use a sidewalk. If sidewalks are not available, make sure that you're walking against traffic, and that way you can see all the vehicles that are approaching you. Stay as close to the shoulder as is safe and practicable. Some of the common pedestrian violations that we see is a failure to yield right of way to a vehicle. That's that pedestrian that steps right in front of a car and expects it to stop. Failure of them to obey the traffic control signals, and pedestrians not walking against traffic. And the common contributing factors that we see is pedestrian impairment, and this is especially in downtown Montauk and Amagansett Main Street. Pedestrian distraction and poor visibility, again, see and be seen, very important.
I have to say that, and I know iTry has done a campaign where they've put out lawn signs to remind folks that, and I see it in, in my community and up in Springs, people walking with traffic, 3 Mile Harbor Road. I mean, it's just like, I want to put my windows down and say, please, folks. And now that I've got a hybrid car, you don't even hear the car.
Right.
So if you're walking against traffic, at least you see me coming. But
And many people have earbuds in, they're not
well,
listening,
that's the
they're
other thing, too.
distracted.
They're listening to music, they're running and
Talking.
Or last night driving home, somebody was running at 8:00 at night. It was dusk, and they're in all black.
Right, high visibility clothing, very important
So
too.
it's, I think we're going to be doing, and we appreciate you pulling this presentation together so quickly, Chelsea and Kenny. We're going to be pushing this out on social media because we just need to, engage our community and remind folks about, walking, into the, having the traffic I'm not articulating it properly, but so that you're walking
traffic.
against
You ride
traffic.
with
Because it
traffic.
sounds, it seems,
Or towards the traffic.
counterintuitive.
Right.
Yeah, you're walking towards traffic, not with it.
Bicyclists. Bicyclists shall ride within a bicycle lane. We do have many of those now in our town along Route 27, parts of Springs Fireplace Road. It's important that if you're not using a bicycle lane, that you stay near the right-hand lane or curb. And unlike a pedestrian who's going to walk against traffic, bicyclists are required to travel with traffic. So the way that we always tell people to remember this, if you have wheels like a car, you're going to ride with traffic. Bicyclists shall not ride more than 2 abreast upon roadway, and they really need to try to ride single file. We only really have 2-lane highways out here, so you're sharing the road with other cars, other motorists. It's very important that you try to ride single file. Really, other than when you're passing another bicyclist, we ask that encourage everybody to ride single file. Bicyclists are not permitted to wear more than 1 earphone in their ear when operating a bicycle. So that's another important thing to know. Guys should not have 2 in, only one earbud. Bicycles that are being operated from a period from 1/2 hour after sunset to 1/2 hour before sunset need to have a light on the front, a white light on the front, a red light on the back. And this is so that motorists can see you. Again, another visibility, see and be seen. We have some additional town codes in addition to the New York State law. This has to do with riding bicycles on the sidewalk. So you're not allowed to ride a bicycle on the sidewalk in downtown areas of Amagansett or Montauk, or on the east side of North Main Street, East Hampton between Collins Avenue and Floyd Street. Certain areas of the township where you can ride a bicycle on the sidewalk, you just need to know that pedestrians still have the right of way. So if you're coming up behind them, you need to make verbal warnings and commands that you're going to be overtaking them. Some important information to know about children on bicycles. Children under the age of 1 are not permitted to ride on a bicycle. So not in the back on an infant carrier or anything like that. Under the age of 1 are not permitted on bicycles. A child more than 1 but less than 5 must wear a approved safety helmet and be carried properly, affixed in a child safety seat. And a child 5 or more but less than 14 must ride a bike with a helmet. So we still see kids on bikes right now without helmets, but less than 14 must have a helmet on. And some common bicyclist violations is that they're not riding with traffic. They're riding more than 2 abreast, which I think everyone can attest to. There's a lot of, they come, they clump, and they ride down the middle of the street and don't move over. And they fail to obey traffic lights and signs. Again, if you're on a bicycle and you're coming up to a stop sign or a red light, you must obey these traffic signals, just like a vehicle. Common contributing factors include impairment as well, distraction, and poor visibility. And now to a very new topic, electric bicycles. This is a graph that explains the different classes of e-bikes. We have class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes. A class 1 is a pedal assist, a class 2 has a throttle and pedals, and the class 3 has a throttle with pedals and is assisted with a motor. So this is some of the stuff that we look for. It's a bit detailed. I'm going to go into some of it on some other slides. So according to the New York State e-bike laws, an electric bike is a bike with fully working pedals that is no wider.
Can we just go back and go through that list
Sure.
a little bit, specifically?
I do go through some of it.
Okay.
I break it down.
I got you, Chell. I'm one of the main things I'm looking is the ages.
That I break down in other slides because it's so much information on that.
Correct.
Just visually, the graph is great.
Thank you.
I'll break it down and then certainly go back to anything that you want to take a look at
appreciate
if I don't address it. So it's no wider than 36 inches and contains an electric motor that is no more powerful than 750 watts. So the class 1 electric bikes operate with pedal assistance and they operate at low speeds. When the bike moves, you will have to pedal. They have an electric motor that helps the rider pedal, and the bike can reach 20 miles per hour. And then when you reach 20 miles an hour, the motor ceases to assist. A Class 2 electric bike has a throttle but operates at low speeds. This bike has a motor that allows the rider to move forward without pedaling. This e-bike may be started and ridden without the pedals. As the speed hits 20 miles per hour, the motor can no longer assist, just like the Class 1 bikes. A Class 3 e-bike is a bike with a motor. The engine assists you with the ride, making it effortless, and as the speed reaches 28 miles per hour, the assistance is cut off. It is not recognized or allowed, is cut off. In New York State, the maximum speed limit on this bike is 25 miles per hour. It's important to know that electric bikes are not registered or insured, so we do not treat them like motor vehicles in the state of New York. They cannot be operated on motor roadways with a speed limit of more than 30 miles per hour, which is very important for people to know.
So would that be the roadways of Flamingo, South Edgemere, Westlake?
Correct. Any Route
Springs
27
Fireplace
where it picks up past,
So
correct.
that's Springs Fireplace Road as well.
Right.
And then just a question, they also, because I've seen them riding on, say, an Amagansett in front of the big field on the sidewalk at a very rapid speed. Are e-bikes allowed on sidewalks?
So they are not, and I believe we have town code prohibiting that.
And are they meant to be in bike lanes or are they meant to be on the road?
They can travel in bike lanes or on the roadway, either or.
So a bicycle can go on a road where the speed limit is that, but an electric bike cannot.
Correct.
Seems a little illogical.
It's New York State law. It's not my law.
Some of them are logical, though. I will just say that.
Correct.
Yeah.
The Montauk Highway, Route 114, these are locations which are over 30 miles per hour.
Correct. So by New York State law, they're not supposed to be
Stretch.
operating on those.
It's Montauk Highway, correct.
And then our town code restricts them on sidewalks. No person shall operate an e-bike while impaired by the consumption of alcohol. And that's actually a vehicle and traffic law infraction violation. Persons must be 16 years or older to operate an e-bike. They must wear a helmet if 16 or 17. Once you hit 18, a helmet is optional. Strongly recommended, but not required by law. E-bike operators may carry passengers, so you may see a bike with more than one person on it, and that is legal.
Really? That's news to me.
All e-bikes should have a manufacturer's label prominently affixed to the e-bike with classification information regarding the wattage of the electric motor, the maximum speed, and the electric assist, as well as whether it is classified as a class 1, 2, or 3 bike. Recently, the town just enacted this code prohibiting people from riding these electric scooters on any sidewalk within the jurisdictional confines of the town of East Hampton. And that goes for the electric scooters as well that we're seeing in Montauk. And the common e-bike violations that we see is operating on the roadways with a speed limit greater than 30 miles per hour, e-bicyclists riding on the sidewalks, failing to obey traffic lights and signs, operating less than 16 years of age. And common contributing factors is just generally that people are uninformed of the laws and regulations governing e-bike use, e-bicyclist impairment, e-bicyclist distraction, and as always, poor visibility. In summary, keeping our roadways safe all time of year is of the utmost importance. The East Hampton Town Police Department pushing out public safety education and outreach to the community is of the utmost importance to us. We started this year with flyers in the school, especially about e-bikes, to educate the members of our community. And it's our goal now to try and push it out to a lot of the secondary people who come out here in the summertime so that we can get them educated as well. Because I think, like I said, the biggest thing is that people just don't know.
Because folks are also like just renting them for a couple of hours or renting them for the day, right?
And parents are renting it for their kids. And so when we speak to store owners, a lot of times they say, well, the person who's renting it is an adult. I don't question them further. So I sign the rental and then the adult gives it to their 12, 13, 14-year-old child to ride. And I don't think that they do it to commit a crime, I think, or, to commit a violation, but they do it because they just don't know.
Right.
just for the injury, I mean, the risk when when you see them going, I guess it's 25 miles an hour, but it feels so much faster because it's a bike.
Sure.
So I wouldn't want to fall off at that speed.
Right.
So a lot of this is common sense for your own safety. But yeah, I could see how it's such a new kind of item that folks aren't familiar with the risks or how to keep themselves safe.
And the legislation, like you said, is sort of catching up
I mean,
to the
fact that
technology.
they don't require a helmet, but they have these other, it just seems nonsensical to me. I mean, one thing we might want to look at is whether we wish to have local code that requires any bike rental, electric or mechanical, you have to have a helmet provided to you as well. And just put that onus on the providers of, be it hotels or whoever's providing the bikes, that you have to provide a helmet to the riders.
Sure. And in preparing for this, when I was reading in the state laws, it is very open to allowing for towns and villages to enact their own interpretation and safety measures as they see fit with regard to moving forward with the e-bikes. So I think that
I would imagine,
without-
Tom, as an EMT, that you've seen some pretty gruesome, and PD as well, situations where cars and bikes collide.
I
and there's
personally,
no
when I was a
helmet.
teenager, was in a hit and run off my bike and my helmet smashed. And had I not been wearing my helmet, I would not be here now. So,
In your head.
yeah.
I was actually at the intersection of Brent's 4 years ago, and a bike just came right on by on the right-hand side and didn't obey the traffic signal, and a car came right out across highway and smacked the person right in front of me. I kept his head up from losing consciousness until the ambulance came, bleeding all over for about it felt like a long time, 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, so they see the failure to obey, they think that they have right of way.
Yeah.
Another one, Adam Surflash, you were there, the EMT on scene. I don't know what it is, but watch out for driving around me, I guess. But there's been, there's conflict on the roads with the greater use of this. And if you're adding this type of technology there, I think enforcement, so a lot of enforcement will probably come from PD, but I think enforcement is going to have to come from parenting also.
Right.
Appropriate parenting to educate your kids. We do that with cell phones. We do that with many other things in life. E-bikes is going to have to be one of them. You want to use it legally, go ahead, but parent your children better than too.
Lieutenant Tierney, one thing I would just want to clarify too for the public is that when a bike and a car are both on the road, while a collision may happen, a car is always going to win. The bicycle has an equal right to use that road, and the car has to treat that bike almost as if it's another car, correct?
Correct. Right.
I think often they're just seen as smaller, so pushed out. So I think it's...
Right. No, I mean, this is primarily talking about, how to be safe as a pedestrian, a bicycle, or an e-bicyclist, but certainly as an operator of a vehicle, you have responsibility to keep an eye out for the bicycles. If you see potholes and stuff like that, and you have to sort of anticipate what their move might be. Are they going to try and avoid that? Is their car door opening and they might have to move to avoid that as well? So certainly, cars have to know that they need to share the road with other vehicles and pedestrians on the roadway.
And just,
especially at this time of year.
You're certainly not equal in terms of risk, right? A multi-thousand-pound car versus a bicycle. I would
certainly not.
suggest extra care because you wouldn't want to harm anybody in a moment of rushing or whatever.
Correct. And also what I would like to remind people too is if you do get into an accident with a bicyclist or an e-bike or a pedestrian, stay on scene. We ask people to stay. Don't run.
No.
That becomes a much bigger problem for you. Staying on scene after you've hit somebody isn't a problem. We can work with that. But once you flee the scene after you've struck somebody, then it becomes a problem.
Any other questions for
No,
Lieutenant Tierney?
No, I wouldn't mind, Ashley. I know we're going to press it out into our media campaigns also to be more extensive of that, even to the Chamber of Commerce in our local areas then too, and just try to extend that outreach because it's been an issue. I know we've discussed it. I've discussed it, Montauk CACs. I've also discussed it nature preserve committees on the trails. But the greater that we can, press this information out.
Sure, yes. We have a flyer already that we did in the schools.
Maybe into the school. Thank you. There you are.
Yeah, we've done that. So what we'll do now is we plan on doing a press release, right? We're going to do something through the press, through social media, and then really circulating it at least through our downtown Montauk and Amagansett, like I said, to get our secondary community out here. We've worked really hard on the local community. We have a lot of obviously influx of tourism and stuff, and we want to keep them safe as well.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you could email me the presentation.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Thank
Sure.
you. Okay, next up, we have Johnny Ryan Jr. to talk about pool and beach safety.
Yeah, somebody be able to, is anybody gonna be able to pull up the PowerPoint?
Yeah. Patrick, could you pull up the PowerPoint for Johnny?
First of all, thank you for letting me come and visit and here this morning and talk about a very important aspect of my life, which is water safety. So recently, I don't know if we all know, but recently there was a drowning out by Cedar Point Park. Luckily, that gentleman now is, well, we don't know. He is in Stony Brook, from what I understand, in stable condition, last I heard. But regardless, it hits home when it's when we know that this is the time of year, and we have to be on our guard to make sure that it's not going to happen here. Over 3,500 to 4,000 people drowned every year in the U.S. That's 10 per day. Drowning is the leading cause of unintentional injury-related deaths of children ages 1 to 4. 23% of children drownings happen during family gatherings near pools. And drowning deaths are on the rise this year as per CDC, which stated in May 4th, 2024. Number one rule, you got to learn to swim and enroll your kids into swim programs. And what's even more concerning is many of the parents don't know how to swim. And when I give talks to school-age kids each spring leading into the summer, I want them to be aware that there are programs out there. There's the YMCA. And one program that most kids do not know, this town, ever since I was 7 years old, provides a free swim program during the summer, free, at 2 weeks at Alberts, 2 weeks at Maidstone, 2 weeks at Eastlake, and 2 weeks at Havens Beach. Most kids don't know that, and that's an important part of should be an important part of growing up. The YMCA, as I mentioned, has all sorts of swim programs. East Hampton Town has opened its arms to allowing us to run a Nipper Guard program, which is offered to kids ages 6 to 8. Individuals must qualify for that. So starting in March, every year, the town provides us with the opportunity of evaluating and training and qualifying kids ages 6 to 15, which for many of them, they don't know how to, their swimming skills are not that strong. So again, the town provides free swim programs every Sunday, starting at 1 o'clock to 2:30, where lifeguards are working with young children to teach them how to improve their swimming skills so that they can qualify for our Nipper program, 6 to 8, and junior program, 9 to 15. We also provide a cadet lifeguard training program, and Chief Treadwell also runs a TOWS, Town Open Water Swim Training Program for adults. One of the things that I show younger age kids at these water safety talks I do at the schools is this picture, and ask them what's wrong with this picture. Many of them will pick up on the little kid in the pool calling for help, or the horse playing around the side of the pool. Certainly those are important things, but some miss the mom talking on the phone, not paying attention. I tell in young children at the schools that whenever they're swimming, they need to have either swimwear or there's a lifeguard, or the parents must be that person that will watch them in the water, and that must be undivided attention, not reading books, not looking at their phone, not talking on their phone, undivided attention. Some of the other things that we need to focus on in that picture was that there should be a fence around every pool. All right, it's too often that we hear I guess it was 8 years ago, a little girl walked out the back door of people that lived off of Abraham's Path. The grandmother didn't realize that the door was open, kid walked out and drowned in that backyard pool. Devastating situation here in East Hampton. Certainly having a fence around a pool prevents kids from getting too close to the water and falling in without anybody noticing. The rescue equipment, there should be some type of throwing flotation or reaching tool around the pool. Obviously, the horse playing, we don't want anybody to fall or get hurt, but never leave floats in the pool because they're alluring to kids, and they'll reach in to try to get them and fall in. And they should never swim. Children should never swim alone or be in a pool area unless they have adults watching. Supervision must be on undivided attention. Certainly, diving is a serious concern. We hear individuals breaking their neck and becoming paralyzed by diving in the areas of shallow water. So again, very important. I always tell individuals, feet first, no diving. Boogie boards, you don't use flotation devices in areas where you can't swim without them. So what happens if somebody does get in trouble? First thing I teach young kids and adults is to call for help, call for backup before you jump in. You just never know. I'll tell a little story about myself. When I was 7 years old, my sister's friend slid down the slide in our deep end of a pool. I can swim. I can help. I've helped my little sisters in the deep end. I jumped in. Little girl was drowning. She grabbed me by my hair, and down I went. And I, like a little kid, I can free myself. I couldn't. And if it wasn't for one of my sisters who reached in and grabbed the girl and pulled her to the side, I wouldn't have been standing here talking to you. That was my life lesson. It's reach, throw, don't go. With respects to beach safety, I can't say it enough, swim near a lifeguard. We get calls throughout the summer where there's a swimmer in distress. It is that call never comes in for a protected bathing beach. We have the lifeguards there making those rescues. But it does happen on unprotected beaches where we get a call. East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue or the East Hampton Town Lifeguards respond to swimmers in distress or even worse, drownings, like Saturday. But people need to know the water conditions before they go to the ocean or even the bay. East Hampton Town has graciously allowed us to create this QR code that allows individuals to visit our East Hampton Town Lifeguard website. And on that website, we indicate the surf conditions, the color, we fly color flags. Red, very simple, red, yellow, green, just like the stoplight. Red means stop. Think about what you're doing. This is dangerous conditions. Yellow, cautious conditions. Maybe today's not the day for you to go to swim. More likely rip currents are present. Green means go, but it's not always a go. You have to know your swimmability and your ability in the surf conditions. Also on that page, lifeguards have the ability to tag. We can tag rip currents or marine life concerns that we have. And when somebody clicks on that QR code, they'll go to that page on our website, and it will show flag color, temperature of the water, wave height, the weather, certain weather conditions that we're having, and it will also show if lifeguards have tagged specific rip currents that are in the general beach areas. Likewise, you need to know where you are. Unfortunately, we had a drowning many years ago, and there was a lot of confusion as to where this drowning had occurred. They pulled the woman out of the water. They were doing CPR. It was difficult to figure out where she was. Why? Because many people that come here visit. They rent houses. They don't know the streets. They don't know the beaches. They don't really know where they are. So after that drowning that occurred many years ago, we put up signs marking all the walkover access points. The example on there, it says 8M. That's Montauk. M for Montauk. A for Amagansett. Right?
W for Wainscott too, which we just installed.
Yeah, that number on there will when they call in, they're gonna dispatch will ask them what beach marker are you at. They call in 28M. They will know the crossroad to that, and rescue efforts will be sent to that direct location. People cannot underestimate the power of the surf. You always hear the rescues we make. People say, "Oh, I was only going to go up to my knees or up to my waist." Well, that certainly is their intention, but that's not Mother Nature's intention. All right? Mother Nature sends a wave up onto the beach, and then now waist deep is now chest deep, and they're getting sucked out into the surf that they did not want to be near. So you can't underestimate the power of the surf. Boogie boards and surfboards, I'm going to go in with a flotation device. Well, great. Well, the boogie board leashes break, and so do surfboard leashes break. All right, losing up. Again, it goes back to that pool. You shouldn't be in an area of where you're swimming or where you're on a flotation device where you cannot swim without it. And then watch for the winds. We are continuously called for swimmers or boaters or paddleboarders in distress on the bay beaches or even on the ocean beaches where the wind is blowing off the shore towards the sea or towards the water. And the further out you get, the stronger the winds become. One true concern I have had over the years, because it's happened twice in East Hampton, is digging holes. We've had 2 deaths. Well, 1 death. One person was severely, but there was brain damage that occurred to this individual because he was because of a sand collapse. People digging holes too deep. So the rule is this year we will be enforcing that there is no digging any deeper than knee high of the smallest person in your group. We will be teaching our juniors and nippers the same thing, filling a 5-gallon bucket of sand on and placing it in front of them, asking them if they can pick that up. That weighs about 70 pounds, and that. In a sand collapse, you can multiply that 70 pounds times 6, an average amount of sand compressing on that individual trapped at the bottom of that sand collapse. Very difficult to dig somebody out for that because the sand will continue to collapse as you dig deep, as you try to get to that individual. So if you witness a swimmer in distress, immediately call 911. I'm a good swimmer. I can jump in. I can make that rescue. Well, who's to say you get to that individual and somebody follows you and now you have 2 people out there or 3, or you get to them and they say somebody else out there. It's important that you have backup. As lifeguards, we know that we always have backup. So calling 911 for backup, and never allow anybody to swim or rather attempt a water rescue without a flotation device. The number one cause of rescues and drownings on ocean beaches is rip currents. So making a rescue, getting caught in a rip current, most people are confused as to what's going on. It's a current that creates as the waves wash in, they find a spot in the sandbar that that water can exit. and it travels perpendicular to the beach. And as it pulls, as more waves wash in, more water washes out. As the tide goes higher, the deeper the rip current. Rip current is, if you've ever walked on the beach, it's nice to walk down by the water because the sand is packed down and it's nice and flat. All right, that's the sand. That's like the sandbar. But if you're walking down from the top of the beach to the water, the sand is soft and chunky, and you stumble here and there. That's what you're going to feel like when you're in a rip current. People can't get their footing, and every time they stand up, they feel like they're getting pulled back. They're getting closer and closer to the waves, which is where they don't want to be. So in order to get yourself out of a rip current, one, you need to relax. When you relax, you float. Anxious, you sink. Rip currents will not pull you under. Rip currents will not pull you under. Don't swim against the current because you're probably not going to make it to shore. You'll be able to escape by swimming out of the current in the direction we tell people to swim with the sweep, all right, but parallel to the beach. All right, get back up onto that sandbar where you can walk out easily, or let it take you out. Relax and let it take you out, or swim out beyond the break. Rip currents will only pull you as far as where the surf is breaking. Beyond that, it will disperse and release. And then you could swim either diagonally or parallel to shore and then directly in onto the sandbar. If you feel like you can't or are unable to make it to shore, call attention to yourself, waving or calling for help. Again, try to relax. You'll float. And then hopefully somebody will recognize it, call 911, or enter with a flotation device and make rescues. I can't say enough, swim near a lifeguard. East Hampton Town Lifeguards wishes everyone a safe and enjoyable summer. Do not hesitate to ask lifeguards for information, help, and assistance. And I want to thank every single one of you for making this community a water-safe community. Thank you.
Well, Johnny, thank you so very much for that. I also want to thank you for all the signage and thank Chief Treadwell and his staff for evaluating, making sure that all the emergency signs are legible after all the storms that we've had this season, which happens every year, making sure that all our signage is compliant, gets a lot of information out there then too. Chief Ryan, if someone wants to contact yourself, your email address, or how can they contact East Hampton Town Lifeguards? Just through the town's website on the recreational page?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the board for all this help in making this happen.
It's very serious business. Very sobering presentation. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, John.
Okay, next up, we're going to talk about beach fires and residential fire pits. So Tim, you want to go first? Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. I've been on the Marine Patrol for 19 years, and for most of that time, I worked nights, so I got to enforce a lot of beach fire regulations over the years, and I've checked hundreds of beach fires and talked to hundreds of people on the beach regarding their beach fires. And the good news is that the beaches are cleaner than they used to be. When I first started, we concerned ourselves mostly with what we called dirty fires. People would throw litter in their fires and beer cans, and we would mainly write littering tickets. And, you know, people removing their fire debris from the beach was honestly the least of our problems back then. So that's a big improvement. I've never understood why people find it aesthetically pleasing to throw beer cans or snow fence or whatever it is they're ripping off the beach into their beach fire. I've just never really understood that. But anyway, so it has improved, and basically over that time I developed a beach fire regulation spiel, which I said over and over again to such an extent that I could almost put it to song. And it basically goes like this. For all beach fires must comply with the following regulations. All beach fires must be 50 feet from the dunes, no in diameter than 2 feet wide, 2 feet high. clean wood only, no wood with nails, no treated wood, no construction material wood. A 2-gallon bucket or pail of water must be within 10 feet of your fire at all times. All beach fires must be fully contained in a metal container. And upon commencement of the, or when you're finished with your beach fire, all fire debris must be removed from the beach and the beach returned to its natural state. And no beach fires are only permitted between 5 p.m. and noon. Now, the good news is,
5
though.
p.m. and midnight.
I'm sorry, noon. Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Kathy. Yes, from 5 p.m. is you don't have to remember all that because the only visual aid I have today is this. And you'll find one of these signs at every beach, and it's pretty much going to explain all the beach fire regulations right there. So there might be a few things on here which are included in the beach fire regulations, wind velocity, stuff like that. That's generally stuff that we don't have many problems with. The town has done a lot of work trying to make sure that all the proper signage is in place. Sometimes signs do get vandalized, sometimes signs do get removed. But most of the time, if you're going to the beach, there is going to be a sign nearby which does explain all of the regulations. The biggest problem we have currently with the beach fires is since the metal container regulation was put into effect, is after people have their fire, a lot of people leave their fire debris, they dump it out of the metal container and take the metal container home, or they leave the metal container on the beach. So I would make a recommendation. The people that are very good at it, what they do is they actually have 2 metal containers. One, they drill holes in the bottom. That one is where they have the fire. So then after, when it's time to leave the beach, they pour water, a lot of water onto that debris. Then they can pick up the one that has holes and put it inside the one that does not have holes. Then you don't have a big sloshy mess of fire debris and ash and water because the water has drained out. That's really the most successful method that I've seen people employ on the beach. That's really all I have, short and sweet. Do you have any questions about that?
I just think the one thing I want to iterate is it's not just don't leave it on the beach. Don't bring it back 20 feet and dump it in the dunes or elsewhere. It's often these embers might not be put out by water and the fire risk is huge. So
Thank you for mentioning that. And the other problem is some people, rather than putting it out with water, they'll dump it on the beach and then they'll bury it. And that's even more dangerous because the whole reason we put the metal container regulation into effect was because people are stepping on burning embers under the sand and getting serious burns under the sand, which was the reason that we created that regulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Buzzy?
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm going to talk about recreational fires that you have, in your home, at your home residences. I brought my fire code book with me, but the fire code deals with a lot of public fires, recreational fires, beach fires, but it gives a lot more leeway to the privacy of your own home. So that's really important to use. The first thing is common sense with my recreational fires. I brought a couple pictures. I don't know if they're coming up. That's a picture of, like, I guess what we would call a fire bowl. It's factory made, it's steel. It has a cover or a spark arrestor on top of it. These are some of the things you might use at home or someone might have at home. Got the other picture. Let's see what else we have. This is a masonry built-in fire pit, and you see even the ground has the paving on it where it's non-combustible surface, and we're away from the combustibles. And the other picture I wanted to show also was just the spark arrestor, and this is what we always mention on putting over a fire pit or such. It helps keep those embers from blowing away. It's similar to the screen you'd use on your fireplace inside your home. Keeps those embers from coming out onto the floor. And these things will also help keep the embers from flying out and causing other fires or the fires to spread. We'll talk about distance to combustibles in the public. In my fire code, it tells me 50 feet from the dunes, 25 feet from other combustibles, and we can reduce them to 15 feet when we're using some of these factory-made fire pits, the fire bowls, or even the chimeneas that some people have at home that are popular. Always look at the manufacturer's recommendations on those. Some of those pits will tell you, or some of those fireballs will tell you they can't be placed on a combustible material, such as your deck. You might not want to have it on top of your deck or wood surface. You may want it out on the yard, on the grass, or as we saw in the other picture, those pavers, which are non-combustibles. We want to be the same as the beach fires. We want to use good, clean wood, no garbage, no debris. It's not to burn brush or our leaves in. Those things can also, spread the embers more readily, even through the screen. And the dirty wood that could have paint or stain or treated wood, we don't want the fumes, because those are bad for you to sit around and breathing those fumes. Let's see. Take extra care. Now, I know around right now we have the pine beetles that are attacking our pines all over the town. If you live in any areas near where these trees are all dying off or have been felled on the ground, you would take even more precaution, maybe even not even have fires anywhere near those areas this time of year. Never leave fires unattended. Don't set your fire and go back in the house, go cook your meal or watch a TV show, take a nap, come back. Always have somebody around that fire to see it and make sure it's attended. But don't want it getting loose or anything happening while you're not there. Always have something to put out the fire. At home, we suggest the garden hose. 5-gallon bucket of water, yes, but you're gonna be running back and forth trying to fill it up. Fire extinguishers are usually just gonna cause a big mess, especially dry chemical. If you have a water fire extinguisher, that's only gonna hold a few gallons of water. So fire hose, garden hose is really big to have it there. Never use chemicals like gasoline or things to light the fires. Don't have gasoline anywhere near your fire pits. It's a huge danger. The fumes are explosive. You want to use newspaper, some kindling, nice little small kindling to light your fire as you would in your fireplace. No chemicals, no accelerants. When you're done with the fire, ensure that the wood and the embers are completely out and completely cooled down before you leave. Again, don't leave it unattended while it's still smoldering or any smoke or hot embers. And make sure probably a good idea to leave it overnight or maybe even a day or two before you dispose of the embers to make sure that they're completely out. There's nothing else going in there. Looking at the winds today, when I was walking over, it looks pretty windy out there. I think the general rule is around 20 to 25 miles per hour. You shouldn't even ignite or even have a recreational fire because of the dangers of the spread of fires. I think the beach fire regulation is 25 miles per hour. Shouldn't be fires. And again, talking about the winds, be a good neighbor, be a good and considerate neighbor. Think of where the smoke is going. Is it going right into your neighbor's window? Is it the weather? Is it foggy or wind blowing in that direction? Be considerate of your neighbors too, because the smoke can affect them also. And also remember, there are also cleaner alternatives such as gas, natural gas, or LP fire pits too, that you don't have to carry away the embers. You don't have to worry about as much. Of course, you do have the fire safety of the gas and all that to worry about, but it's an alternative too. And that's about what I have. Any questions for anybody?
No questions.
No.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Sir, you want to come up to the podium? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Dr. Bill DeCipio. I'm a resident of Amagansett, full-time, the past 25 years in Montauk. I appreciate what the chief is telling us about these fire pits, but I have, and recently a fire was put out in Montauk that was caused by a fire pit, ignited by a fire pit. We all know what's going on in California. We all know we live in a forest. I wonder if we really even should permit fire pits in people's backyards. These are pits that you're using wood, they're wood-based. One of the things that really is disturbing, we've discussed this in the Citizens Advisory Committee, is that everything the chief talked about, the precautions, I think the 10-mile-an-hour wind precaution, are not in the code. The code only includes reference to fires on beaches and trash fires, which includes the wind restriction, includes the distance from a residence, includes 1,000 feet from a property line. That does not apply to a fire pit. And the word fire pit doesn't even appear in the code. So my suggestion is that maybe the code needs a little addendum or updating. I'd be happy to help and work on that if necessary, along with the Citizens Advisory Committee. These are my opinion, not the opinion of the committee right now. So I'd appreciate looking at that further. We have a very dry, well, we can have a very dry area. We can replicate what happens in California for the weather with a change. We don't have a tremendous full source of water everywhere either. If one of these big houses were to catch fire, I don't know how we'd have enough water if there weren't town water. Many areas don't even have town water. The old fire sumps are not even used, I think, at this point, where water is trucked in. So a fire in someone's backyard could be very serious, especially if it's a small 1 acre or less. Maybe there should be some restrictions on the size of the backyard. I also had a neighbor who complained the other day, who told me about someone in Springs who said the smoke was just tremendous. The problem is if you call town enforcement, ordinance enforcement, how are they going to respond if it's not in the code? You know, there's not a violation. So I think it should be, you know, perhaps addended to the code. Just putting the word fire pit in would be a help too. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the chief for presenting too.
Appreciate your comments. All right. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it and educating us and our community. And we're going to push out a lot of what you've said on social media and press releases just to inform our community and our visitors. So thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Okay, next up, we have a presentation from the Executive Director of OLA, Minerva Perez. Thank you for joining us today, Minerva.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. Nice to see people, some new people I haven't actually had a chance to talk to. We've got some paper presentations.
Thank you.
On nice paper, so you can hang on to it.
Thank you so much.
And with me, so my name is Minerva Perez. I'm the Executive Director of OLA of Eastern Long Island. OLA has been around, started in East Hampton 22 years ago. So, and we're still here, but we do serve the full East End of Long Island. We have our offices on Main Street, Newtown. We like to say that Prada is below us, just so you all know. And with me today, I'm very happy to have two members of our Youth Connect team. I've got Jessica Tovar and Faith Evans, both longtime folks who have grown up in East Hampton, actually. So here they are. Are they on camera? Can they be seen?
Well, no,
for this
because the
presentation?
PowerPoint is
Oh, the
on.
PowerPoint. Okay, it's okay. I'm just making sure. They do all the hard work.
They can maneuver.
Pardon?
In the bottom left-hand corner.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, David. So Youth Connect, I'm just going to focus on that for a moment because we're talking a lot about safety, a lot about things that really keep our community safe and especially our children safe. I think there's a lot of focus that we have on that. I want to start off by thanking all the professionals that were here giving those presentations. They resonate very strongly with me and with our team in terms of what else OLA continues to do to make sure that that kind of messaging gets amplified and absolutely gets out there into our community in Spanish, whether it's verbally, in writing, whatever it might be. We have to make sure that everyone does get that information. Safety information is not a moment to stop and say, hey, who didn't learn English fast enough? Let's make sure everyone's got it. So I stepped out in the hall with Sergeant Alversa to make sure that he and I could start a conversation about doing a live webinar conversation about that bike safety and pedestrian safety and road safety, just to make sure it's an ongoing thing. I mean, it probably should happen once or twice a year. People forget these things. And also with water safety, I'll be reaching out as well. But, any way that we can do what we do, it's part of it. It is, our mission is to create a safer, healthier, and more equitable East End. So that is our mission. With Youth Connect, this initiative started many years ago, probably a good 7 years ago now, or more, when we were kind of tracking some of the mental health needs of families. that were going through a lot of hard times, and we were tracking it. We did a survey that we reached out to English speakers, non-English speakers, and said, hey, what was your experience in the East End of Long Island going to school? What were your needs, if any, emotional or mental health needs? And we had a write-in section for a few of the questions, and I thought, no one's going to write in that section. More work, right? Everybody wrote in. We had over 400 responses. We hired Stony Brook to actually analyze the data. And from that data, it really kind of pushed hard our initiative to take next steps and what could we do to address some of the mental health needs of our adolescents. Then COVID happened and we got very much involved in Project Hope. So for 2 years, it was supposed to be 6 months, but we kept getting extended. We ran an initiative from FEMA-funded initiative through New York State, then through the county, for the entire East End, addressing the emotional health needs of a community, Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking, English-speaking, Shinnecock, Black, White, Latino, old, young, who have been affected because of COVID. So we ran that for 2 years, and we were entrusted by Office of Mental Health and all these other agencies to run that for the entire East End of Long Island, and we were happy to do so. Jessica and Faith also were members of that team initially. So they've been focused in on mental health and emotional health for a while for the East End of Long Island. So from that, when that was ending, we knew that our adolescents were really having these strong needs. So we created Youth Connect. It is the only type of initiative that does what it does the way we do it in this community. So we started off with this circle thing here, you see. In the center is youth, adolescents, middle school and high school, up until like start of college. We really want to extend this even to about 25. And we all know that that's an important age to kind of stick with. So youth at the center. And then our initiative and the mission of Youth Connect is to make sure that we're creating stronger bonds, relationship, communication, trust, accessibility to all of those other 5 entities that if youth have connection to them, that it's going to help youth survive even very difficult circumstances and even thrive through challenges. So care providers, houses of faith, parents, peers, and schools. And so our initiative has that in mind. We go into school systems, into our middle schools and high schools. There are about 21 high schools and middle schools. So not districts necessarily, but high schools and districts that exist on the East End of Long Island. And we're in right now about 14 of those, middle school and high school. And this initiative has been going on for about a couple of years now. We go into the school, we make presentations, the team does, and then we provide information for them to reach out to our helpline, which our team runs 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. in Spanish and in English. We answer texts, mainly they're texts, and they come to us about all different types of scenarios. And we have our protocols in place, and we have a person running this who's an LCSW. And this is a critical offering that we are presenting to our community, not Latino kids, all kids. Because what we have learned going through a lot of the work, and yeah, I'll stay there for a minute. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. What we've learned is that we're not going to exclude anyone from the work that we're doing. So we look at a school community as one community. We don't look at it as Latino kids and Black kids and white kids, the sports kids, the drama kids. We look at it as one school community. And so when we realized it that way, we said, we're just going to make sure that this offering is for everyone. And at first we got some pushback, but recently, as you may have seen, and I think East Hampton Star, we've been added to New York State budget for our mental health work for Youth Connect. And that's a huge achievement for this team and to kind of show our commitment to what we do. We're not going anywhere with it. We're sticking with it. We're growing it. But it's something that has to happen for all of our youth. So Youth Connect right now, you see some of the numbers there with impact. Going into the schools, you see the numbers right there, middle school, high school. It's just an ongoing thing. In the summertime, there are new challenges because then kids aren't in school. And so we're going into soccer camps. We're creating camps. Jessica, maybe the next slide will show something to do with the different kinds of outreach to the different schools. So we'll look at that for a second. And then camp. So last year, Jessica started a 1-week camp, and I thought she was very ambitious, but she did it. So she got together people from within mainly East Hampton who were going to provide these services for free. Everything we do, by the way, is for free. The only thing that we ever charge for is something like the film festival for $10 for a ticket or $15, or Pachanga. We have a dance party. But anything that we're doing for our community is always for free. So this camp is now this year going to be 2 weeks long. And she has brought in the support of healthcare professionals and artists and everyone in between, longhouse, culinary arts professionals. So we committed to this age of sort of that in-between age where the kids have a hard time getting a job. Maybe they don't have transportation, but between like 11, 12, and like 14, 15. So camp is kind of a weird spot there if they're not in camp and they can't get in there. So the summer camp is something that we're also offering. It is something that we've seen is extremely needed, so we're going to grow it. We're actually applying right now to New York State for a waiver, so we can do even more with our initiative here. And again, even though it's an East End situation, because a lot of us, and these folks are based in East Hampton themselves, and our offices are in East Hampton Village, a lot of the parents and the students and the activities that we do are coming from East Hampton, so I just say that. It's an important point, but our arms and our heart is open for the entire East End. I wanted to, before I stop for a second, is just kind of invite Jessica and Faith up here. It's only like 4 little spots here, but to kind of read a little bit, and we have the quote there, but don't put the quote up because I want to surprise people. It's not a surprise, but anyway, come on up here and please, you're playing the role of the counselor, and you're playing the role of the student. So you have to speak all the way to the mic.
Okay, it's just a blurb. It's just a small blurb.
Yeah. And I'll start as the crisis counselor, and she's the team. This is real. You went through a traumatic experience, and this is information that can help you understand your feelings and maybe implement some coping mechanisms. Does any of this resonate with you?
Yes, all of it helps because I was kind of in denial until now that I truly actually went through all of this.
Do you think there are some things from this that you can do when you are feeling down?
Yes, I can do self-care and relaxation techniques. I feel like a weight is lifted off of me. I'm feeling better. Thank you so much.
So that's just like Jessica said, just a blurb of one piece, but we've got conversations that could go on for hours. And what we're doing with that work is essentially standing next to that person going through that. We're not, and it's hard because pretty much we're all moms. It's hard to not go into fix-it mode, but we know that that's not what we do. We stand, we listen, we're alongside them. There's really great information that we can offer. We also know things in a very granular level on the east end of Long Island. All the police chiefs, all the different work that might be happening in different police districts across the 10 districts that we have, the 24 school districts entirely that we have on the east end of Long Island, having relationships to those schools to know, hey, listen, you've got some great social workers there in that school. This might be something for them. Sometimes kids just don't know they have other options. Sometimes they do not want those other options. Sometimes kids have therapists. They don't want to even tell the therapist because they're afraid the therapist is going to tell their mom. So this is an option for them to have when they feel that they have nowhere else to go. It doesn't speak to any lack that might exist in a home or in a school. It speaks to the fact that students have told us through the survey that we initially did that anonymity is one of the biggest barriers that they have to even starting to reach out to someone for help because they're ashamed or they feel that the adults around them just simply can't handle what they're going through and they don't want to hurt their adults any further. So this is an option that's a very important option. So thank you, Kathy, for asking me to present on this. There's nothing else I'm doing here today except for sharing this with you because we're very excited about it, and it is another element that's brought to our community, specifically East Hampton Town, to try to do our best to keep our children safe and offer them as much support as we possibly can in English and in Spanish, biculturally as well. Yeah.
So Minerva, how do we, we'd like to help you get the word out too. We could use our social media, to push this out. Can you share with us the phone number or how to, young people, I know you're working through schools and whatnot, but how do they get the phone number and how do we get to young people so that they know that this incredible service exists?
Sure. Well, I'll make sure that you have a copy of the RAC card, the electronic copy of the RAC card, and even the physical stuff we can drop here. It could even be great to have next to the newspaper.
I have the physical. You left that with me.
Okay, but I can get you more. And that number is, you can call or text, and you can also email us as well, because sometimes kids might not have a cell phone, or they get cell phones taken away because they got in trouble. So they can email. So the number is 631-810-9010. And in fact, we've been thinking about doing a little jingle. So if any of you can come up with, but actually, we should do that. And it's, it's primarily in place for middle and high school up to 25-year-olds. However, and if there is a person out there or a parent out there that would want to call us and ask us more about it, they can text that number if they like. Probably better that they just reach out through the OLA office, which is 631-899-3441. And that way you could say, hey, listen, I want to learn more about Youth Connect, and we can make sure that one of our crisis counselors or our program director speaks to you. The helpline is very busy. So we do want to make sure, like right now, I think Faith has been on a call for how many hours right now?
Since 9 a.m.
Since 9 a.m., Faith has been on one text. I want to make sure you get all that information, and we don't only operate through schools. So we want to make sure that it's definitely available outside of school so that students can really feel that this is for them and no one's making them do it. It's not good for you. It's just something that exists out there, and we'd like it to be kind of just a common practice. If they're having a bad day, they failed a test, massive crises. We've talked with all of our law enforcement officials about protocols that we have if someone is wanting to hurt themselves or hurt somebody else, or if they're being actively sexually assaulted. So we have protocol in place for those three types of scenarios where any confidentiality we will break. We let the students know that as well when we do our presentations in schools, that they're going to be spaces that we do break that confidentiality to make sure that they are safe and everyone around them is safe. At the same time, if we do not offer that anonymous option, we know that there are going to be kids out there that never ever reach out for help, and that's not something that we can stand with.
Would we be able to put that, because it's a card, could we put that in like the comfort stations at town beaches so that, just thought of, like a way to reach, I don't know if it's.
Yes, let's try to figure something out.
Yeah, maybe,
I'm just trying to figure the physical way of.
Sure, exactly. And then also QR codes. We have QR codes as well. Whatever's going to make it easier and also less litter, because sometimes kids can just take a picture of whatever it is. You could say, take a picture of this QR code or a picture of that image if it's behind a plastic or something like that. But having access to that is exactly what we need everyone to have, so that they don't have to go up to an adult and say, can I have that RAC card? Because that, again, is another barrier. And this is not only funded and approved now in New York State budget, but also partially funded by Suffolk County through the opioid settlement grant, because what we also do is fold in conversations and workshops around substance. We don't jump into substance. If someone's just saying, hey, I'm having a hard day, we're not saying, hey, you're using, but we are prepared and trained to have conversations that weave that in, because substance and mental health they're not always linked, but they're often linked in terms of coping mechanisms and whatnot. So this is also part of what we do. So it's very much a kind of a state, county, acknowledged, sanctioned, funded type of thing. So whatever we can do to get a word out on that and all the other spaces that you think are appropriate, we'd love to partner with you on that.
Great. Well, Minerva, Jessica, Faith, thank you for the work you do on behalf of our kids.
Yeah, Faith and I have known each other since maybe 6,
Yes.
7, then too. So you have a great team, Minerva, then too, and I thank you for everything you do for the community.
Likewise, I've worked with Jess and Faith on the East Hampton Youth Task Force. I would just reiterate to the community as well, as along with Ola, for any needs you have as a community, the Human Services Department for the town does keep a list of all the resources, including Ola, Family Services League. So if you do need help, it is there, and please reach out.
Thank you so much. I'll leave this there, and then maybe I'll come back and talk about some other stuff we're doing with elders in the East Hampton community, but that'll be for next time. Have a great day. Thank you all. Be safe.
Thank you so much, Minerva. Thank you for everything that you do.
Bye.
Okay, and our last topic is we're going to continue our discussion about the amendments to Chapter 255, Tree and Vegetation Uplighting. So Nick, if you could join us at the podium.
I think Kevin is here.
Yeah, Kevin, I appreciate you coming in case we have any questions. So Nick, maybe you could just pick up where we, recap where we left off. You came out to Montauk to our work session out there last week. Board had some comments and questions, and we've asked you back.
Yes, well, thank you for having me back. Last week, the board shed some light on this topic. And I broke it down according to which topic, respective to council people. And one was setbacks, one was the kelvins, the others were illuminating lights during the day, and extinguishment requirements. So that's how we'll go through. And I think we'll just go as we did last time, line by line. And again, so just so folks are clear, this pertains to excessive non-essential nighttime lights. Okay, so from what I recall, Councilmember David Leese talked about setbacks. So in the interest of including setback requirements for nighttime lighting, I went through the code. Subsection C of 255-183 currently exempts landscape lighting from setback requirements. So in the interest of folding it in, you could see on the memo that I removed landscape lighting as defined in 255-120. So this proposed edit would require a setback for landscape lighting.
See, that might be challenging when it comes, because we don't have setbacks for driveways or also pathways. So that might be a safety issue. So I think I was more concerned with the uplighting aspects for vegetative, I think that's the language we were using, uplighting and that type of landscape lighting, but some of them might be a safety issue.
So as the code sort of contemplates that issue, there is a distinction between landscape lighting and, let's say, your walkway lighting or along the driveway. So if you still think that's an issue, I can remove that edit. Otherwise, I think this would be specifically curtailed to that foliage landscape lighting.
Let me double check, look at it, and then we'll talk.
Okay. So we'll put a note there. Okay. I'm going to move on now to the consideration of Kelvin. So as written currently, the landscape lighting and tree uplighting are exempt from Kelvin. Now, Kelvin, I'm no expert on Kelvin, but very simply put, I believe it's just the coloring of the light, and you have a spectrum. And the higher in Kelvin, the more blue light it is, and the lower in Kelvin, the softer, more amber light it is. So in conjunction with the planning department, we made a couple of revisions, and they are as follows. So in addressing Kelvin, we suggested to move it down to 2,700 Kelvin. And the next step would remove landscape lighting from the exceptions, and but keep the tree uplighting as an exception to the general lighting standards. But we would qualify that in a way that encapsulates reducing the Kelvin to 2,700. So stick with me. There's a couple of moving parts here. If we look at the memo that I sent you, let's just look at the F exceptions. I've removed the landscape lighting from F exceptions so that it could not exceed 2,700 Kelvin. However, I kept the tree uplighting so as to avoid too much manipulation of the code, because we don't want to move it too much around, but we want to meet the same goal. So we have the landscape lighting and we have the tree uplighting. The tree uplighting would be addressed in the definition of itself, but we're moving landscape lighting from F exceptions.
So is there a definition for landscape lighting? Because what we're aiming at right now is foliage lighting and tree uplighting specifically. So what's the definition of landscape lighting in the code?
So landscape lighting is this sort of umbrella term where the illumination of foliage falls under. And that's one of the things that we've talked about is, and I'll define it for you, landscape lighting is standard and low voltage lighting that is designed to illuminate foliage, pathways, landscape features that do not exceed, and this is where the amendment would be 2,700 Kelvin and 550 initial lumens per fixture on a residential lot. All foliage and landscape feature lighting shall be extinguished by 11 p.m. to an hour before sunset the following day. Now, these are the proposed amendments. I don't want to get too far ahead, but if that answers your question.
It does, but I think the problem is with the pathway and what David's concerned about, if that pathway that's included in there can be considered, a walkway. If I would like to know when this code was written, what they meant by a pathway, and make sure that we're not talking about driveways. But there are also, for outdoor lighting codes for driveways and pathways, they're meant to be fully shielded. So that light should not rise above the horizontal plane. It should be contained straight down. So there's the distinction. There's a regulation in the code for pathway light, for all outdoor lighting, that it needs to be shielded. The foliage lighting doesn't need to be, obviously uplighting, you can't shield it so that it doesn't go up. And the foliage lighting is not shielded, and that's why it's important to keep that out of the outdoor lighting that's not above the horizontal plane. So any lighting that you have on the side of your house, on your porch, on your driveway, all of that by policy right now in the code is meant to be shielded to make sure that the light is directed where you need to see it and where you're walking on the ground, and not up and polluting the field of vision for people and shining into their bedrooms and across the street, etc. As we've heard from folks, they see that. The Kelvin issue is many years ago, the town dropped down the overall outdoor lighting, this is also for commercial lighting, down to 3,000 Kelvin. The Kelvin is the color temperature of a light, and I think Stuart Vorpal said it best when he came to that hearing, and he was advocating for the 3,000 Kelvin, because he said anything above that white light, it's like the arc light of a welder's torch. So you're looking directly into this white blue light. We're looking to have a more amber light, which is a more natural light. And that 2700 Kelvin, that is what we chose and was recommended by the NYSERDA officials when we did all the street light transformation. So right now, all of our roads are lit with 2700 Kelvin, just as a reference. So certainly, I wouldn't think you would need any more than that to light your tree for a couple hours or your foliage. If it's good enough for the roads, I think it's good enough for your foliage.
Okay.
And again, you can go lower. That's a limit.
Right. So to address your initial concern, maybe we will keep landscape lighting in. However, we'll make that qualifying feature, as we did with tree up lighting, in the landscape lighting definition. So that setback for foliage is strictly setback for foliage and not other things like pathways.
And do we have a setback number on there?
No, so this standard would be so it's not visible across the property line.
That's a little tough with foliage lighting.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about the front yard setback. I mean, if you're driving down the street and you don't have a wall up there,
yeah,
it's going to be hard not to see the lights from the street. So that would be beyond the property line. So that might be a little tough.
Right.
I think that kind of speaks to the challenge of it very much, which is that if people are using landscape lighting, it's not just lighting up their landscape. It is affecting their neighbors. And I think that, that setback does need to be somewhat aggressive in order to abate that. So I would be interested in kind of going down that lane a bit more personally.
The section of the code you might want to look at is just, same setback on a property based on the lot area that would be for an accessory structure, which is 10 feet. It's not super large, but it's what it is for another structure on your property.
Okay. So
might be one area to look at for the board to discuss.
So we could mirror this setback requirement on our dimensional table, potentially.
Well said.
Okay.
I think something along the lines of lighting direction too, with the landscape lighting, because what you don't want to have it, you could still have it be 10 feet from a property line, but if the light is directed to foliage that is adjacent to the neighbor's field of vision, that's going to be problematic. So, something along the lines of it needs to be directed back towards your own property or vertical, not towards neighboring properties within that setback area.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that we have to also realize that whatever we do, you're going to see tree uplighting from other properties unless we say no tree uplighting. I mean, it's virtually impossible. It's not, an accessory structure is one thing, but light, it by nature, it goes out.
Right.
So I think, if we're looking for right now, I mean, going back to the origin of this, Kevin Cooper coming in and talking about landscape lighting that is extremely bright and, impedes people's abilities to have dark in their house. I've heard stories of it, lighting up the front of people's house from the backyard, landscape lighting that's directed out from the house to light up the trees to kind of make it look, I guess, bigger or whatever the goal is. But all of this is going to have an impact no matter what we do, unless we turn them off completely. And I don't think that's our goal right now. But unless we want to discuss that, how I feel about dark skies. But if we're looking to, rein in right now, the landscape lighting, I think the cutoff is probably the most important part of this, and lowering the Kelvin.
Okay.
Right? So if we're telling people 11 o'clock, this type of unnecessary lighting that does not help you see when you're walking, pulling up a driveway or walking through a path, or is not lighting the entrance to the house, and that's what landscape lighting is. It's supposed to be low voltage. It's not anymore. So it's better to rein in the lumens and the Kelvin, which is a tighter control on lighting than low voltage. Because right now with LEDs, all lighting is low voltage, but it can be, 10,000 Kelvin and blind you. I think that looking into setbacks is good, but to me, if you're 10 feet away and you turn on a light, you still see that light. I mean, it's not the same as a structure, which you pull back because you're looking to have all the noise associated with the structure and the visual impact of the structure further back from the road. A light, when you turn it on, you turn on my porch light, I have woods in the front of my house, but you can see my light through my trees, and my house is well set back. So I think it's a little, I'd have to, I'd have to be more clear on what the setback will accomplish.
Nick, first of all, thank you for doing this. I think you've targeted this well, and obviously it takes a little bit of work, but I think that your efforts here are appreciated. I just want to say to Kate's point in this whole uplighting, I think there's a difference between seeing the light source itself and the result. If you can see that a tree is lit, but the light isn't directed at you, I think it has to be acceptable if we're allowing it at all, because how do you prevent it? Mm-hmm. But if you're seeing the light source itself, just like if a full cutoff light on, above your door, you're not supposed to see that light source, but you can see that the structure is lit up. And I think if we mirror that somehow.
That's the shielded effect.
Yeah, shielded, and then as to Dave's point, maybe with setbacks and, again, it's not invisible to people, but hopefully protecting enough.
I think one thing we want to consider, and we brought this up last time, and I think Len mentioned it earlier, is, the impact this has on ecosystems around. We require properties when they're developed not to overclear. And the purpose of that is to protect these natural ecosystems. And perhaps we want to have something else in this code with regards to not impacting those areas as well with your lighting. Yes, it is your vegetation, but that's protected areas within your own property. So to light them, I think, would be damaging to them and take away from what they're meant to actually be.
Is that a problem, though? Are people lighting up their, uncleared areas?
I don't know, potentially.
Really?
They're uplighting in their forest ares,
Okay.
Yeah, even in the uncleared areas, they're lighting the oaks. They're uplighting the oaks. To a point where, it's impacting neighbors. Because also, again, the Kelvin is very high. They can go with, that arc welder's light. Think of that shining up towards your second story bedroom next door.
The Kelvin we're going to fix.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The Kelvin fixes that. And the shut off, I think, is really important. The cutoff time So if you have lights on for a couple hours, I mean, that's diminishing the impact on the ecosystem. Trees and foliage and all the associated biodiversity is not meant to have 24-hour light. It greatly impacts so many, I think, we should have a presentation on how that impacts everything about how the natural cycle of the foliage and the biodiversity is greatly impacted by 24. It's polar day, right? We're not meant to live in 24-hour light. None of us, including everything around us.
So the timing, I think we're going to address. The Calvin, it seems like we're going to address, and it's fairly straightforward. Perhaps, to Tom's point, just add something that says no lighting can be directed into uncleared areas, which I think you wouldn't be allowed, I don't think, to put lighting in an uncleared area anyway.
No, but it's just shining the light.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe, I don't know, Nick, if that's legally.
I've seen people light their trees in their uncleared areas.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't know, you mean Nick's the lawyer, but can we say you can't direct it at an uncleared area? Is that?
I think we could definitely look into that.
Or something along those lines?
But I also.
Be tree uplighting in areas that are uncleared. I mean, that's what folks are doing, right? So if you have woods in front of your house as part of the area of your property that's not been cleared.
Yeah.
So you can meet your clearing restrictions. I see frequently people running electricity and then having uplighting of all those natural oaks or whatever's in there.
Yeah, and there's no limitation in the code that suggests you're only relegated to 3 trees to uplight, right? So, and I think that's sort of the problem is there's been a little latitude here, and I think people have gone with it. Bless you.
But I just still feel like what we're looking to do in this go around, or maybe we should take a deeper dive into the lighting codes in general. I would be very much in favor of that. I do think the night light codes need updating, but on residential properties and commercial. But I think, for me, the 2 strongest pieces that are going to put the regulations or control or deal with the issue of the problem are the reduction in Kelvin and the cutoff times for this, and the other tweaks that you've made.
Great. So I think that's where we'll.
But I don't know how we're doing.
Along with. So just so we're all clear, 2700 Kelvin would be the standard.
Yep.
And I will address your concern last time was the lighting of lights during the day. I added a prohibition that would be in the code here known as day burners, which would say all outdoor lighting as illuminated during the daylight hours is prohibited in accordance with this chapter. Is that something you would want to keep as well?
All outdoor lighting?
All outdoor lighting that is illuminated during daylight hours is prohibited. And
yeah, I personally have no issue. I mean, I really don't understand why anyone would be having lights on during daylight hours.
How about inclement weather?
Yeah,
I'm just throwing it out there.
How about what?
Inclement weather.
Oh.
Yes, I still don't know whether it's going to really make that much.
Well, I mean, what I was thinking, when I brought that up, we were talking about time restrictions.
Yeah.
So perhaps we just put, I guess it's the same thing, would just be a time. It just seems silly to say you can light during the day, but you can't light between midnight or 11 and dawn, but then you can flip them back on.
Yeah, I mean, it works for foliage, right? It certainly works for what we're trying to address here. For foliage lighting, it's not essential lighting.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the key phrase. There's no essential purpose for this lighting. But I don't know all the outdoor lighting.
Well, this is also a change which I'm supportive of, and I don't want to do too much accidentally. I mean, perhaps we would just change the day burners to uplighting and landscape lighting.
Okay.
So that if there's a safety issue still turn your lights off during the day, but.
Yes, totally.
I don't have a particular problem with that, with the way you worded it, but open to softening it. Sorry, Nick.
Oh, nope. That's why I'm here.
We're giving you a.
I'm happy to put in the work. I enjoy it. Okay, so that All right, I'm just getting my bearings and calibrating here. I think we're moving along nicely. Would you like to go through the tree up lighting definitions and landscape lighting, or do we feel comfortable we're all on the same page?
The only thing that I had, and I know when we were discussing at one point last week, we said, should this be, the cutoff times and when you can put it back on? It could be seasonal, and then we wound up saying, no, let's not do it seasonally. My only concern with having it as an hour before sunset is that every day that changes, and we know how people set their timers. So I don't know if it makes sense to say, instead of 11 p.m. to the hour before sunset the next day, but no earlier than,
to have a,
so that, for people that are setting timers or whatever.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that's 4 p.m., 5 p.m. I mean, in the winter, it's dark at 5 o'clock. But obviously in the summer, it's not dark until 8 o'clock. So 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
I would be okay with 4, just to maybe cover the.
Okay.
So you do have here, in section 255, 120 definitions, tree uplighting, residential and commercial lighting, which is used only to illuminate trees, which again is unnecessary lighting. The light fixture designed and installed must project all of its light above the horizontal plane and be aimed directly at the tree, but not beyond the width of the tree. The light source must be set back enough so as to not be visible across property lines. It must be extinguished by 11 p.m. So I think you may have captured, to be set back and not visible across property lines.
Okay.
In that section.
But, I mean, we have a house around the corner from us, and it's actually a corner lot, and they've put in a lot of trees and they've uplit them, and you see them, you're driving by, you see it on both roads. I mean, it's just, like you said, you can't contain light when it's uplit.
No.
So, I mean, I don't know if we're putting something in that, how do you enforce it? If you're saying, like, I think right now, the two big levers that we get to move are the time of day and the Kelvin, the wattage that you can use in those lights. I don't know, Kevin, if you have any thoughts, well, please feel free to share them.
See, in that section though, Kathy, it says the light source, and that's the worst thing, is when you can see the light coming out of the light source and you're hit with that, the brightest part of the bulb. You're looking at the bare bulb, basically. So I can see where they should be set back enough and not visible, the actual light source.
Yeah, I have no problems with following the guidelines that we use for other setbacks. If it's 10 feet, 15 feet, as long as it's from the property line, not from the right of way or the road or the edge of the driveway. I have no problem with that. As far as the times, I mean, we're not going to be, my guys aren't going to be, and girls aren't going to be out there, 5 minutes before, an hour before sunset waiting. We don't, that's not the purpose of changing this code. It's not, we're not looking to do that. We're just kind of looking to rein in the times to just make it better for people, better for the environment. We're not going to be out there, frankly, we don't have the time to do that, so whatever you all decide by that, is fine, whatever you come to with that, but the 11 o'clock start is definitely a great improvement. I know many residents will be happy with that. So,
Yeah.
And as far as the pathways, we don't have a problem with that. Again, we have, all my people have, the discretion is on them. They know how to use discretion. They're not going to be writing tickets for pathway lights that, might be 3 inches from a bush or a tree. We don't do that. We're not here for that. So, the residents don't have to worry about that, as far as any changes like that.
Kevin, do you have the necessary equipment to check lumens?
A little louder.
Sorry. Do you have the necessary equipment to check lumens and kelvins? I mean, I know you can look at the light bulb for elements.
don't, no.
Is that something we would need to invest in for you to 2
I mean,
months?
yeah, I mean, I'll look into, the pricing and, if the price is exorbitant or anything like that, but maybe to have one device like that around might be useful in the future. It's a good idea. They are, like I said last time, it is getting prolific out there. But the real concern is just them having them on, late at night with the dark skies.
Yeah, dawn to dusk.
Yeah.
I mean, dusk to dawn.
Nick, I have one or two other thoughts, which is I think that you capture with the tree up lighting, the light source language. Maybe if we added that to the landscape lighting, that solves some of the problems with setbacks. And then lastly, with the day burners, maybe just reference tree up lighting and landscape lighting for the day burners, and we can leave the outdoor lighting generally for another time.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would qualify day burners for the foliage lighting and the tree up lighting.
Yeah, the landscape lighting and the tree lighting, because we have definitions for those.
Okay.
And then if you the light source language that you include in tree up lighting, maybe include that in landscape lighting. And that will solve the most egregious, trespass anyway.
That sounds good.
Cool.
Yes, and just Kathy, maybe in the near future, we should have a presentation on, our lighting, except what shielded lighting means, and we could show examples of all this. I'm happy to work on that and put it together so that we can educate folks on what we're actually talking about in terms of outdoor lighting. Because the code now, your outdoor lighting, other than what we're talking about today, which is foliage and landscape lighting, it needs to be fully shielded. And what that means is that you see the light, but you're not staring at the bulb. I think that's the easiest way to say it, which is the glare, as everyone knows. Staring at a light bulb is a very unpleasant experience.
Yeah, I also just want to say thanks again to Nick, because, it's easy to sit here and say, oh, we don't want too much lighting at night. It's obviously more difficult than that. And to get the language, specifically in the code correctly takes a lot of work. And I appreciate your efforts very much.
Of course. Yes, thank you.
Good job, Nick.
All right.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, so liaison reports. Tom, you're up.
Yes, Human Services, just there been reported cases of coronavirus being out there again. Jason, if you could just bring up the PDF I sent over to you. I just want to remind people kind of some of the critical pieces here. Firstly, for those who are at risk with comorbidities, it's always recommended to receive the additional updated COVID vaccine doses. All adults are recommended to get a flu vaccine, and as your need requires, you can receive a higher dose of that flu vaccine. And also those with any underlying medical condition should also talk to their healthcare provider about the RSV vaccine as well, because that is also circulating at the moment. These are the CDC guidelines. Just talking through, immunization is a key way of addressing this. Hygiene is obviously critical as well. Airflow, as we recall. Speaking to your doctor about the right treatment should you become infected with RSV or COVID is critical as well. And then the key piece here as well is that if you are exhibiting symptoms, please do stay home and prevent the spread. That is the key. The guidance from CDC is to stay home for 24 hours or both until your symptoms get better or you're fever-free. With regards to masking, it is, of course, voluntary. CDC does recommend it both to protect yourself. They recommend using an N95 as the best means of self-protection. But in terms of if you are sick yourself and you need to be out in public, wearing a mask to prevent that spread is critical, as long with distancing as well. So I just wanted to bring that up to people's attention. From the Fire Marshal's office, we did receive notification from PSEG with the annual celebrations coming up, such as July 4th. Just a reminder to people to be very cognizant about the use of drones, kites, and balloons, which are actually banned in our town, for becoming entangled in the overhead electrical equipment.
Banned. The mass release is banned, but yes.
All right, thank you. Just with regards to the problems they can cause to the electrical lines. out there. For the sanitation department, as of July 1st, we will be accepting credit cards, which is great. Just want to advise people that the minimum fee you will be charged for using a credit card is $1.95. Beyond that, it will be a 2.9% transaction fee on top of whatever it is you're being charged.
For specific services?
This is for the use of the scale for dropping off there. Moving on, public safety, I said reach out from some of the ambulance departments. Please, if you see the flashing lights behind you, move safely over to the shoulder, safely being the key word there. Don't suddenly go, just check your rearview mirror, but please do pull over because time is life in many of these instances. East Hampton Youth Task Force, beyond the excellent presentation from Ola, I just want to draw people's attention to the recent press release by the Surgeon General with regards to the use of social media by children. There is a recommendation from him that there should be a warning comparable to that found on cigarette packets. That is receiving some pushback at a federal level, but just bring that to parents' attention about the impacts that the Surgeon General is identified with the use of social media. Moving on, tomorrow is obviously for Anti-Bias Task Force a huge day, the Juneteenth event taking place in Herrick Park. It will be from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We hope to see as many people there as possible. I will be there myself from 11 to 2. Business committee, we had a meeting yesterday where Joe Palermo gave an excellent overview to the committee of the building permit process and the timelines for different types of permits going on. Just the overall business environment, many have communicated to me through the committee and elsewhere that the winter was a challenging period for many businesses out here. One bit of good news we are seeing is from the New York State Comptroller that local sales tax collections increased in May for the first time since December of last year. So we're beginning to see a rebound in some of our businesses out here, which is great. That's everything from me.
I will have 2 resolutions on for this Thursday. One would be for an extension of the water specific water quality grants as allowed within our process. Also, we will be looking at going the recommendation of the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee for the funding for the Conic Estuary program for this coming year. Any questions, please contact Melissa for that. Dish Plain sand placement has started yesterday. The contractor is on site early in the morning, dumping sand, and typically done by early afternoon on there right now. There will be, please proceed with caution. There will be restricted access to the beach in the constructed zone, and also during the time the contractor is on site. The comfort station lot will be closed to pedestrian and also automobile traffic. The contractor will not be working on Saturday or Sundays, and we do anticipate that all replenishment for this phase of it will be complete by next Wednesday. Any questions, please reach out. Want to let the board know we've had a successful rollout of the paid parking in Montauk this past weekend in all of the locations. It was very successful. And I want to thank again all the agencies will continue to monitor this and to be noted. At a meeting with the Oak Grove Cemetery and Atlantic Ave Cemetery trustees yesterday, this is a continuation discussion about the expansion of the Oak Grove Cemetery, about the next phases of that expansion, specifically for the design there then too. I'll bring that to the board's attention very shortly, some of their commentaries. Lastly, I was fortunate to go to the change of a command for the Coast Guard cutter Bonito at Coast Guard Station Montauk last week. As many might know, there was actually 2 stations in Montauk, one being actually the deployment of the Coast Guard Station Montauk, which is there, but also for the Coast Guard cutter, which has been in Montauk for, I believe it was 53 years. Coast Guard Station Montauk will be soon without its 87-foot cutter. That's why it's not a change of command. It was a little weird, I'll be honest. The Coast Guard Station, the Bonito, will be being removed as part of the Coast Guard Long Island, Coast Guard's next force alignment initiative. Pretty much they're down on staff overall. It's not saying that we'll never come back, but very, very shortly in the next couple, I think it's 59 days, that the Bonito will be actually being moved out of Montauk, and Montauk will not have an 87-foot cutter, but the force readiness is prepared from other locations to cover our sector. I firmly still believe that the Coast Guard it needs to have a cutter stationed out of the Montauk for the readiness of protection of our fishermen, recreational aspects, specifically how the area now off of Long Island now is starting to have more wind farms. We want to make sure that there is safety out there by having a cutter in Montauk. Personally, I want to thank Master Chief Justin Krasinski, who helmed the the Bonito, and also the Kingfisher prior to that. Was here for about 4 years then too, and all of his crew on deck for keeping all the mariners safe. It is something that we'll continue to press for the return of a Coast Guard cutter, but as far as now, that was the last change in the command that we might know of for a cutter in Montauk.
Just while you're on Coast Guard, I just also wanted to congratulate an East Hampton Town resident, Amanda Nasty, who graduated as top of the class from the Coast Guard Academy this year from New London, has just been posted down to Key West, which is the prime posting. So a phenomenal achievement. So congratulations to her.
Thank you. Congratulations. And that's all I have.
Kate? Yes, I'm happy to announce that we are on a roll with the town's Clean Energy Communities designation and working towards reaching the threshold of silver that gets us additional grants. Barry Bennett and the New York Power Authority team helped compiling info on our LED streetlight upgrade and submitted this to NYSERDA, and we've been approved for an additional 900 points for reducing the town's streetlight energy consumption and emissions, and this brings our CEC total to 4,800 points, and we're working towards 8,000, which will give us the designation. I'll be updating you on other actions that will get us further to our goal in the near future. The Energy and Sustainability Committee met yesterday. They are working on a PowerPoint for information and to discuss with the town board on the hazards of the health hazards and environmental hazards of the gas leaf blowers. For folks, we know we have a seasonal ban in place now, but we'd like to bring information about the hazards and the benefits of using electric leaf blowers. There are also members of the Energy and Sustainability Subcommittee will be reaching back out to my fellow town board members in further discussion of the oil electrification bill. So you'll be receiving either an email or phone call from them asking you to set up an additional meeting in the near future as well. We're also still working on the forum outreach to the landscaping community. As I think I mentioned in my last report, summer is not the time to try to get anybody in for a discussion, since most folks are working from daylight to beyond sundown in these industries. So they're going to put that together for the fall. Hopefully, be able to use a forum. The forum style that we've done with the other ones at LTV, invite everybody in to participate. As David mentioned, he is working on the construction of the beach nourishment, which is the phase 1 of the ditch plains resiliency and recovery efforts that the town is putting together. We are also working on the phase 2 aspect for the dune restoration postseason by getting in touch with the contractor, getting the contract signs, getting the award-winning contractor and on the job, and developing the permitting that we need from the DEC. And that's all I have right now.
Great, thank you, Kate. Ian?
The Spring CAC will meet tonight at Ashwag Hall at 6 p.m. On the agenda is spraying in Accabonac Harbor for mosquitoes, groundwater testing, which we heard from Frank Rena about today, bike path ideas that they have, as well as Springs Park, which has been discussed recently. I'll be happy to report back to them the road safety report. That's been a very frequent concern of theirs, and I thought the presentation by Chelsea and the police department today was fantastic. The CHAB meeting for June 26th has been canceled. The reason being is they are still waiting, watching the RFAs roll in, the requests for applications for all affordable housing projects. We have been receiving some first-time homeowners proposals or applications for support with that. But CHAB's in a very, very good place and look forward to receiving more applications. So anybody out there who's thinking about applying for either the first-time home buyer's assistance or any RFA for any sort of affordable project, I would encourage you to apply. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Ian. I wanted to share some East Hampton Town Police Department statistics for last weekend. The chief reports begins 6 a.m. Friday morning through 6 a.m. Monday morning. There were 249 events, including 10 motor vehicle accidents, 38 medical aided cases, 16 residential and 14 commercial noise complaints. One commercial establishment did receive a decibel level violation summons. There were also 5 arrests, including 1 DWI, 32 traffic citations, 275 parking summonses, and 40 town code summonses issued. As folks referred to here at the safety meetings that we had today, there was a call for there was distressed swimmers off of Cedar Point Lighthouse. There was a hit and run in Montauk between a car and an e-bike. And then there was a third incident with 3 vehicles involved in Amagansett, but there were no serious physical injuries. I have a resolution on for today. It's we're applying for a grant for the upgrade and purchase of emergency response equipment for Marine Patrol. And this is to maintain and upgrade the fire pump and fire engine equipment for an emergency response Marine Patrol vessel, and to purchase an ROV 3000 to aid in search and rescue missions. The project's total cost is $204,500. There's a local match required of 25%. So the grant amount requested is for just over $150,000. As Tom mentioned, tomorrow, June 19th, we will be celebrating and observing Juneteenth. Town offices will be closed. This day reminds us that freedom is not just a historical milestone, but a living, breathing pursuit that requires our constant dedication and vigilance. We're so proud of our community that they are celebrating this day, and we hope to see you and your families at 2 of the local events taking place tomorrow. The first one Tom mentioned at Herrick Park from 11 to 4. If I could just elaborate a little, there's going to be live performances by Joe D'Elia and friends, a bouncy castle, arts and crafts for kids, vendors, and more. And they say, please bring your chairs and blankets. There's also going to be an opportunity there to support the East Hampton Food Pantry with donations of non-perishable food, as well as tax-deductible monetary donations will also be accepted. And we just want to thank the Juneteenth Jubilee Celebration Committee, the Calvary Baptist Church, Acreshoot Community Development, and all the community members who have made this possible, including our anti-bias task force. Later in the evening tomorrow, the Eastville Historical Society is hosting a Juneteenth Jubilee party and awards ceremony at LTV Studios in Wainscott beginning at 6 p.m. There will be live gospel music, traditional cuisine, spoken word, and vendors. There will be 14 honorees, including Assemblyman Fred Thiel, the Montauk Historical Society, and our very own Town Parks Department. And tickets can be purchased at www.ltveh.org. And that's what I have for today. And anything else folks want to address? No? Okay. So do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Resolutions?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have resolutions.
I'm happy to offer Resolution 2024-797. This is appoint seasonal employees in the Parks Department. We have names, dates, retroactive to, and their titles below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 798, and I'm going to have an amendment to this when I get down to reading the applicant at the bottom. So this is release security, your urban renewal parcel 69A in SP-4-1. Report is received from the town's consulting engineer for road work and a certain urban renewal road improvement assignment. Resolved that the following security held by the town board is hereby released. The applicant is Bobcat Management LLC, care of Kathy Green and Robert Golden, 15 Audubon Street, East Hampton, New York. And this is where I'm going to make the amendment. It should say under the URL parcel UR plan, it should say UR parcel 69A and not 16, so it matches the title. Privately printed prior. Okay, so thank you, Carol. So not as amended, but it's URL parcel 69A and SP-4, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-77-8-11.7, map 16, block 17, lots 6 through 10, and the amount is $22,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution, and I'd like to apologize to Carol Brennan, our town clerk, in advance, but I'd like to offer Resolution 799 with the following amendments. This is to retain Liberty Property Services, and I'd like to correct the spelling on Inc. to INC, period. Second amendment would be in the second whereas clause. I'd like that to read 20 and 40-year title examination searches that do not involve title insurance. And then the last amendment I would like in the resolved section for that to read after, well, let me just read the whole thing. The town board does hereby authorize retaining Liberty Property Services, Inc. for the purpose of conducting title examination searches as requested by the town in an amount of $250 per tax lot for 20-year title examinations, comma, in the amount of $325 per tax lot for 40-year title examinations, in a total amount not to exceed $1,500.
Second.
I'll send that to you, yep.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 800, this is to approve online continuing education for a town assessor, Jill Massa. This is for appraisal, continuing education for appraisers in the amount of $398.05. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 801, which is to approval of East End Kiteboarding LLC seasonal special event permit for 2024. This is whereas commercial kiteboarding instruction requires a seasonal special event permit under town code. Whereas the town clerk's office received an application for a seasonal special event permit from Juan Bosco Diaz, East End Kiteboarding LLC, DBA Skywalk Kiteboarding, to hold kiteboarding instruction at Lazy Point in Napeague Harbor. The Special Events Committee reviewed the application, and it has approved granting the permit under specific conditions. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board hereby approves East End Kiteboarding LLC a seasonal special event permit for kiteboarding instruction per the conditions delineated on the seasonal special event, including the dates of operation, which is June 17th through October 30th. The hours are 2-hour lessons, time contingent upon the wind. Lessons will be 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to sunset. 1 to 2 instruction. There will be no camps. A minimum of 3 people total at any one time. That a maximum. I'm sorry. That includes the 2 students and 1 instructor. This can only kiteboarding instruction can only operate at Lazy Point and Napeague Harbor. A sign-in sheet must be available by request by Marine Patrol and other East Hampton Town Police Department. Student and instructors must wear identifiable bright colored rash guards.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2024-802 is to authorize application to Port Security Grant Program upgrade and purchase of emergency response equipment for Marine Patrol vessel. And this is the grant funding that we're applying for that I was referring to. And this is from the Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the Grant Programs Directorate for the purchase of a fire pump and engine and search and rescue surveillance equipment. And the total cost is $204,500 with a 25% match.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2024-803 is to authorize payment to Dime Abstract LLC for title search fees for the FIM project. The financial impact is $6,650.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
804 is to accept employee resignation from Patrick Harden as a public safety dispatcher, and Patrick's final payout is in the amount of $7,683.01, less any applicable withholdings and deductions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody have anything they want, bless you?
No.
They need to bring up? All right, do I have a motion to go into exec session?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for CPF, litigation, license agreement, and advice of counsel.
And personnel.
And personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you, LTV. I had sent this around later.
Oh, I probably missed it.
119.